All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, yesterday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she confronted Tara Reade's allegations against Joe Biden twice, covered herself in real glory both times. Her first appearance on CNN entailed her saying, quote, "I do support Joe Biden. I'm satisfied with how he has responded, despite the fact that he had yet to actually respond when she spoke." But it was later in the day when she was pressed by my former colleague, Carrie Pickett, that her hypocrisy was on full display.
As far as Biden is concerned, how do Democrats square with the idea that they're essentially they're standing by Biden, but they're using a comparatively different standard with Kavanaugh when you demanded a investigation on Justice Kavanaugh, when a very similar allegation came out on him?
Well, let me just say, I respect your question, and I don't need a lecture or a speech. Here's the thing. I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son, and there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. There is also due process, and the fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden. There's been statements from his campaign, or not his campaign, but his former employees who ran his offices and the rest, that there was never any record.
So let's break that down. First of all, where are all the outraged blue-check journalists at Pelosi for snapping at a fellow member of the hallowed press? But I digress. What exactly does Joe Biden mean? Boys will be boys? Is this 1952? Does she mean that Joe Biden is a person who has frequently made women feel uncomfortable to the point that it's been the butt of late-night television jokes for years now? Like, say, this one?
You come in here, baby, you get right in the middle of it. Hey, sister, you're beautiful.
Hi, Emily. How are you? Hope you have a big fence around the house.
Did you want to get ice cream? There we go.
Can I go with Jess alone?
Very good. Dad's going to stand pretty close.
I've been waiting for an excuse to play that one. But in essence, that is actually what Pelosi meant when she said Joe Biden is Joe Biden. But worse than her hand-waving defense, however, it was a word that she used in that defense that is enraging to anybody who defended Justice Kavanaugh during his confirmation hearings. That is due process. And the Democrats and the media in 2018 explicitly set a standard devoid of due process for Justice Kavanaugh in order to err on the side of believing Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. They were so blatant about it that they published multiple think pieces and stories to that effect and settled on a line that due process is a legal term that has no place in a political debate. The only debate is whether you believe women or not, and that a confirmation hearing isn't a court of law. It's just a job interview, after all. Well, now it's their man's time in the barrel. They're right back to clinging on to the Constitution and regretting deeply the standards that they set less than 2 years ago. This is a presidential campaign, not a court of law, right? Who needs due process? Oh, so a few Joe Biden staffers came forward saying they don't remember anything is fine with you now, but dozens of associates of Justice Kavanaugh that attest to his character then? No. That was not enough. I know it may seem tiresome to bring the receipts on every single one of these hypocrites who flip-flop. It's almost too many to count at this point. I mean, 35 Democrats who've endorsed Biden now have contradictory statements on Brett Kavanaugh. Women's organizations who morally preened at conservatives just a year and a half ago are completely silent. Lawmaker after lawmaker, they seem to have no problem with the fact that there is literally tape of them saying something different not that long ago. And there's a lesson in this. It's a lesson about power. As much as I want to believe in this show and all of you and changing the record, it's just not enough. It took the media more than a month just to gin up the courage to ask Joe Biden about this allegation. Think about that. That is the bare minimum. These media organizations and Democratic politicians served covering up for Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, sexual predators. They can carry on with their moral preening. They survived, and they still will. And the lesson for people on the right was clear after Brett Kavanaugh. They will stop at nothing to destroy you. But it was hard to make people understand that because of the shrieking moral outrage that we heard from the establishment left during those confirmation hearings. And as I said yesterday, now we have the proof, side-by-side video. We know that they will still carry on the next time around, but we have an option now to opt out forever. These people can never be taken seriously again, and they should be actively fought against for power in our political discourse. And Crystal, that's something that I've really felt watching the MSNBC interview this morning. And I said this during our A block in our discussion, which is that this is like a manufacturing consent type moment. The Joe Biden campaign sets the terms of how they want their allegation to be vetted. Then the media, aka Mika Brzezinski, who has said nice things about Joe Biden. By the way, she did a good job. She did press him, but she pressed him within the framework on the battleground that he wants to fight.
Yes.
And that is the first and only time that MSNBC viewers will have an honest vetting process of all of this, and they can pat themselves on the back and say, hey, look, he handled himself okay. I don't think he did that great of a job.
He didn't.
He stumbled and had a weird silence moment, but he survived, and that's all that it takes for them. They can pat themselves on the back. They can say, we vetted these claims, and they'll never even know the totality of the story. And so my proposition after all of this is to just say no more. The idea that these people should have power in our political discourse, MSNBC, the fact that they were able to swing an entire Democratic primary election is terrifying. How much power, how much viewership that these people have, we have to opt out. That's really how I feel, is because, and I want to get to this, is at the time, so many on the right made all of these concessions. They were like, oh, well, we got to give Dr. Ford a hearing, and we have to do all these interviews, and we have to genuflect about how we do believe women, and we don't know how to vet all these things. And they bent over backwards. And as I was saying at the time, and the real lesson is, look, they'll never change. Playing ball with these people, I don't think it's worth it.
And I think this may have changed in the past day, since they all got basically called out by Ben Smith of the New York Times. But, yesterday, as of the time of his column publishing, no one except for Fox News had even reached out to Tara about doing an interview. Obviously, we did an interview with her here 34 days ago.
35 now, actually.
35, yes, thank you for the update. More than a month ago, we'll just go with that. And she wanted to. She told Ben, I wanted to find someone, a network, somebody who was down the middle who could just give me a fair hearing. She turned down Fox. She doesn't want to go on Fox News. But, and that is very telling too, is if your philosophy is believe women and women deserve to be heard, why is it that the man gets to set the terms of the debate and gets to have the interview first? That now Tara, if she's brought on to MSNBC at all, has to respond to him and has to have the terms of the debate set by the man, the powerful man who she is accusing. So I think that's an important piece. I think there's also an important there's a new narrative developing. One of the other things that, that Mika wasn't able to do or didn't do in this interview is she didn't bring up any of the corroborating evidence that Tara has backing her up. And look, I think any fair-minded person would have to weigh, Tara's brother and her friend and the neighbor and the work colleague and the Larry King live tape and the intern, like all these pieces that back up that at the time she was telling the same story that she's telling now. Whether that makes it true or not, you can decide. But when you stack that up against the weight of the evidence that Christine Blasey Ford had, Tara has more, just objectively. Yes. And yet the take that I'm seeing is, oh, but Dr. Ford was so much of a more credible accuser.
What does that mean?
Well, it's partly obviously partisan hackery. That's obviously part of it. But there's also this class bias part of it too. Unstated in that sentiment is the fact that Dr. Ford had more elite credentialing and class status than Tara Reade does. Tara
domestic violence advocate, right?
Tara describes herself as working class or working poor, right? This is a woman who's struggling with debt, who is part of the working class of America, and so she is. Not only do they have the partisan hackery part, but there's also this class bias part, as they don't believe her. They're less inclined to believe her because she's not of their set, and I think that's a really important and notable dynamic here as well.
Yeah, it is, and that is so well said, because it is Dr. Ford, and I think we talked about this, Justin Fairfax's accuser. Anybody who's in the elite class, they immediately get heard and all of this stuff. I remember reading all these nauseating takes about people who'd also gone to Christine Blasey Ford elite high school here in Washington, D.C. This is a circle of just all rich people of a very rich pedigree. And yet, somebody like Tara Reade comes forward, and she doesn't get the same hearing. They dismiss her. They don't take her as seriously. And, this is the other thing. Tara Reade believed in this. And that's part of what I want to get at. She gave an interview with BuzzFeed News, says that she cried tears after Stacey Abrams came forward and said that she basically said, I don't believe Tara Reade. The New York Times has disproven her allegations. And Stacey Abrams is the same person who said during Dr. Ford's hearings and Kavanaugh's that it's just a job interview, no due process. I believe Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. They're utter hypocrites. And this is what I mean. And the point of this entire thing is I want people to say, you can't give these people any credit anymore. We can't give them any of power over our political discourse. Blatantly hypocritical actors who believe only in power. And you have to build your own subset. You have to start your own mindset. You have to completely take away any sort of credibility that you had in your mind for some of these actors, because they will never give you the benefit of the doubt, and they will always act on behalf of the people that they want to put into power. The fact that Stacey Abrams can give that interview on a major national television network, not have her own tweet read back to her as blatantly hypocritical, that shows you exactly who these people will work for. And look who suffers. This isn't just a right-wing thing, although I do think we bear the brunt of it. Look at Tara Reade. Tara Reade believed in this.
That interview in BuzzFeed, I encourage all of you to read it, is truly heartbreaking because Tara was like a true blue Democrat for decades. I mean, I know everyone wants to pin her as like a Bernie Sanders, a Bernie bro or whatever. She was with Elizabeth Warren at the beginning of this primary. She wanted to back a woman is what she really wanted to come out of this. I mean, she talks in this interview about how during the Kavanaugh hearings, she always heard this like right-wing talking, oh, the media just covers up for Democrats. And she's like, that's just a Republican talking point. Now she's like, I'm living it. I see it. I can't believe it. And it's sort of like, it's actually heartbreaking to see her own process of disillusionment and disappointment in figures that she had truly admired.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the most sort of significant parts of this is you do see so clearly revealed what this was all about from the start. And for those of us who do care about Me Too, who do believe women and that women don't come forward easily with these claims, who believe that we should consider these things when you're considering the moral character and the way that someone would wield power if they were to hold this office, like this is absolutely devastating because none of these people will ever have a shred of credibility again.
They won't, and they shouldn't. All right, I'm looking forward to your radar next, Crystal.